Saving of lights is one of the Crescent's pet economies, although most of us are safely beyond want, and it is an actual fact that the house in front of me, blazing from attic to cellar, was more indicative to me of the sharp break in our lives than anything else I had so far seen. For a time, however, it looked as though I might not be admitted. There was an officer on the porch, and he asked me sharply what I wanted. To see Inspector Briggs, I told him. Or Mr. Sullivan. He's a detective, I believe. The inspector's upstairs, miss, he said doubtfully. But I don't think he'll see you. Tell him I have something to say that may be important. I am Miss Hall. I live next door. He went in then, and I stood on the porch waiting. The expected storm was closer now, and I remember distant thunder and a thin spatter of rain on the roof overhead. Then the front door opened again, but it was not the policeman. It was Margaret Lancaster. "Louisa?" she said, in a whisper. "I'm here, Miss Margaret." "Quick, take this," she said. "Have you a pocket? If you haven't, slip it into your stocking. And for God's sake don't tell anybody I gave it to you." She had thrust a small package into my hand, an envelope rather. I took it, but I must have seemed uncertain, for she urged me in a desperate voice to hide it. "He'll be down any minute," she implored me. "Hurry." I slid it into my stocking, and then slowly straightened. "I don't like it, Miss Margaret," I told her. "If it has anything to do with—" "Listen to me, Lou. All I'm trying to do is to save somebody who is innocent." "I swear that, Lou." The next second I was alone on the porch, and soon after that the officer returned. Chapter 9. I was in a poor state of nerves when I was finally shown into the library. Only Mr. Lancaster was still there, and he looked as though he had not moved since the afternoon. He was lying back in the same chair, with his delicate immaculately kept hands on the arms, and his face a waxy yellow. He did not rise as usual on my entrance. At first he seemed not to know that I was there, then he opened his eyes and looked at me, a strange and unfriendly look. "What brings you here?" he asked, still without moving. "I want to talk to the inspector." "About what?" He still lay back, but I got an impression of sudden tension. I took my courage in my hands. "About the money, Mr. Lancaster," I said. "I may be wrong, but I have thought of a way by which it could have been taken out of the house. Taken out of the house. How do you know it has been taken out of the house? Luckily for me, Inspector Briggs came in just then, looking rather annoyed, and took me to the morning room behind the parlor. He put me into a chair, and then drawing one close in front of me, sat down himself. At that moment I thanked heaven for long skirts. Whatever it was Margaret had given me, it felt bulky and uncomfortable in my stocking. "Now, Miss Hall," he said, "let's have it. I presume it's about this murder." "The murder and the gold," I told him. "Gold? What do you know about any gold?" That was the first time I realized that the family had not told the police about it, and I was pretty well confused. But I managed to say that there was a story that Mrs. Lancaster had been hoarding it and that, trying to think how it could be taken away, if it was, I had thought of the street cleaner. "After all," I said, "somebody did this killing, Inspector. And it wasn't Jim Wellington, no matter what you think." He smiled rather grimly. "Somebody did it, that's sure," he agreed. "Well, we'll look up your friend with the cart, but I wouldn't be too hopeful." "You live next door, eh?"